What's up, everybody? How are you? Happy Wednesday, as we shall say. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-hosts, Kevin and Chuck. Hopefully, they're coming in. Uh, I just first and foremost, happy holidays to everybody. We want to wish you a beautiful holidays. No matter what we talk about and how we say it, it doesn't mean anything long as you're in a good place and a happy place. So I say all that to say that this is Real Talk Chronicles and happy holidays. Of course, right now this show is sponsored by Soft Illusions Art Gallery, Malika and her mother's art gallery. They have a plethora of things like calendars like this and things of that magnitude. If Secret Santas and things, or just throughout the year, things that you may want to share with other people. And if you just want to support somebody on my side of the town, which is a beautiful thing. I know always haters, but it is what it is. I can't stop that. With that being said, and all that being said, the first Mondays of the month, Assemblyman Al Taylor. The second Mondays of the month, Dr. Marilyn Corder. We just had an excellent show Monday. I hope
Side of the town, which is a beautiful thing. I know.
I hope you all, excuse me, everybody. I apologize. I hope you all go back and look at that clip, that episode of the podcast where Dr. Marilyn Corder and I converse about the new variants and things of that magnitude. And also, she talks about CBDs. So if you don't know about that, you will definitely be educated. I appreciate everybody that's chiming in right now. It's a beautiful thing to see you all. It's a beautiful thing to be appreciated and supported by you all. Shout out to Stefania, Doji, Toya. What's going on, sis? Lou York, my dude. Everybody's in the building. I think Chuck is coming in. I know he's not. He's feeling a little under the weather, but it's not COVID, like he told us. It's not COVID, and still, like, first, happy birthday to all those that are celebrating birthdays. Shall I say it's a pandemic? I'm sure Kevin will elaborate on this a little more in detail. This is a pandemic. I don't know who you're for, what you believe in, and things of that magnitude. But the one thing I do know is that there's something out there that's killing people, and it's taking a lot of people out. So whether you agree, disagree, it is what it is. I get a lot of behind the scenes conversation, and I'm not a doctor. You want to ask me about law enforcement stuff? You want my expertise on that? I'm your huckleberry. When you want to talk to me about doctor stuff and medical stuff, I'm only a vessel of information. I try to put people in front of you that can give you what you need to know. Talk to them. Don't dog me out on the sidelines because I can't answer those questions. You know, I say that with humility, but also with like, yo, back up off me. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't answer those questions. I really can't. Like I said, if you want to talk about some law enforcement shit, I'm your huckleberry. I go with you 24/7 every day. I'm with it. I'm with it. But when it comes to the medical aspect of things, you're always welcome. Kevin tells you, I tell you all the time, come on the show. You want to come on the show and talk to the doctor? Come on the show and talk to the doctor. You think you're an expert? You think you have knowledge of self or knowledge of something? Put it against the expert. Don't put it against me. Because if you win against me, you're not really winning because I don't know. I'm a novice. I'm doing the research just like yourself. With that being said and saying all that, let me bring my co-host in. Kev, what's going on, bro?
Hey, good evening, Bill, and hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. That was one of your longer monologues this evening.
Yeah, sometimes you got to just give people a little bit of love and happiness on what things are happening. Because after I had after the conversation with Doc, I had one of my friends. I had no problem saying that. One of my friends um, hit me sidebar, and they was giving me the business on certain things. And when I say business, I say that with all due respect. I don't say it in a negative monotone. But I don't know what they wanted me to say and do. It was like, so I'm like, yo, you're more than welcome to come on and put your expertise against the doctor. And then I was asking them were they vaccinated and stuff like that, and they was like, it doesn't matter. I was like, oh, okay, like things don't matter, but you killing me. You know what I'm saying? You beating me up right now. So I get it. So I say all that to say, when people are doing their due diligence and research, whatever it is, and I don't knock anybody for doing their research, because you could really educate the doctor and myself at a time. I'm not I don't know everything, and I don't claim to know everything. What I know, I try to stay in my lane. You know what I'm saying, Kevin? I try to articulate what I feel and how I feel about something, or I'll hit you with facts and fiction, like we tease you and we call you stats. So I mean, you're like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to be proficient and articulate in what we feel and say. So I say all that to say that anything that I've learned from COVID pandemic, I've learned from conversing with my cousin or reading and doing my homework. And because we have prior law enforcement backgrounds, sometimes we may do a little research that's a little bit more extensive than the average Jane and Joe. So with that being said, when somebody comes at me about COVID, we want to talk about things. I don't know what to do. I don't know what you want me to say. I come on the show and talk to the doctor. If you smart, I mean, if you think you're that person, come on and talk to her. Don't talk to me because you beat me up. I can't answer. Go ahead. I thought you wanted to say something. I'm sorry.
No. I got I'm listening to you. Look, that's not our world, Bill.
Yeah. So I say all that to say that please. We're going to discuss that tonight. There are a lot of things that's happening out there in this world. Mandates all over the country. New York is throwing down some stuff. Hey, PA, Philadelphia, DC are throwing down a lot of things where people have to be vaccinated, not even just tested, but vaccinated. I know a lot of people got issues with that. I don't know what to tell you. I am a person that took the vaccine. I tell people all the time, I'm not advocating you to take the vaccine. I just want to know why you don't want to take the vaccine. And with that being said, I'll bring in our other co-host, Chuck. He is under the weather, but he's here to moderate. He's going to moderate Kevin and I tonight because
is that Chuck COVID Richardson?
I told Kevin earlier, everybody, just to let you know, no disrespect to anybody that's been incarcerated, but with all humor, I told Kevin, call me Bubba, and he's going to jail. And with that being said, first and foremost, Chuck, how you feeling tonight, right, bro?
I'm all right, man. I'm a little under the weather, man. But I'll get through it. I'll get through it, man.
Good. And what we're talking about tonight, just before we get into everything, we're going to talk about the commissioners, the new mayors, Mayor-elect Eric Adams, his chancellor for education, also too a big component in law enforcement. He picked a female and we're gonna get a lot of conversation on that. Also, we're going to talk about it. I think her name Kim Potter. She shot the unarmed individual. She mistaken her Glock for her taser. So these conversations will take us into the new hour, and then we probably won't be on that long. But I just want to give everybody a chance. First and foremost, I just want to put to the front, Kevin and I had a conversation, if you two remember, last 2 weeks ago. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Wait a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong in anything that I say, that Kevin mentioned about the Democratic Party being the party that started slavery. With that being said, I corrected him and I said it wasn't the Democratic Party that started slavery. It was they left the Democratic Party and went to the Republican Party. Kevin said that it's still the Democratic Party that started slavery. I said, if I prove you wrong, that the bottom line is all I was saying was that the Republicans, there was a bunch of individuals that left the Democratic Party and left the Democratic Party and started the Republican Party in lieu of talking about slavery and stuff like that. Is that correct, Kevin?
You're in the ballpark.
Okay.
The Democrat Party that started slavery never ceased to exist.
Okay, so Kevin,
that's the thing, Bill. That's what we're missing here. We're talking over each other, but
okay. So let me just ask you a question. I understand that, and I never disputed that. So is that fair to say, like people talk about law enforcement, how they've been the part of the Ku Klux Klan, and they've been about suppressing and disrespecting people of color for years, but they have never changed, even if they've died off. And wait a minute, whoa, let me finish. Even if they died off, even if they retired, even if they got arrested, the bottom line is they're still law enforcement, and they were part of the KKK. So do you understand where people, just like yourself, are saying the Democrats are still the party of slavery? Is that fair to say that people of color can still say police department is still racist?
That's not what I'm saying. So no, the Democrat Party is not the party of slavery anymore, right? Like I was going historically. No. Listen to me. Now you have to give me my moment. Mm-hmm. It was the party. Neither party is the party of slavery at this point in life, right? There's no. My statement to you was the Democrat Party, its origins was the party of slavery and segregation. That's it. There was a point when a lot of Democrats left with others and formed the Republican Party, which was anti-slavery. Those who didn't leave, the Democrat Party stayed, and that Democratic Party continued, which continued on till today. So do I think today's Democrat Party has any bit of trace of, that old party? No. But my thing is that we're in this little world where we get rid of everything, and a party that was pro-slavery, pro-segregation still exists today. Should that be gotten rid of as well?
Well, I understand what you just said, but I can go back to the text that you just.
You can go back to lots of things. But.
No, but I just wanted to say that you articulated in the text between the three of us. That's why Chuck is moderating this. Because you were like, no. You was like, the Democratic Party is the party of slavery. And you said also they should have changed their name. So with that being said, I can't dispute you and say that, the Democratic Party didn't initially start with slavery. But what I did say is that people left that party because they wanted to stay with slavery and things of that magnitude, and they went and started the Republican Party. You told me I was wrong. I told you you were wrong with that because they did separate and divide. You told me it doesn't make a difference. The bottom line is the Democratic Party is the party of slavery. So what I'm saying to you is that if that is the case, then do you understand why people of color feel so much animosity towards the police department? Because the bottom line is the police department were the slave catchers back in the day. They were the KKK. They still, to this day, have divided and started a culture of disrespecting people of color. So is it fair to say that they should still be called the KKK and slave catchers?
Police department, no. It's a different conversation. We can have police department's job has always been what government officials tell it to do, right? That's
So
been a
wait,
police.
let
Let me finish.
Allow me. Okay,
no.
go ahead. Go, please. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go to the ref.
Go ahead. Go. I can. I yield
I
back.
know
I
you did.
yield back.
I did. And I don't want to get on this too long tonight because
No. I yield back.
But police department has always been their job is what the elected officials make their job. So if their job 200 years ago, part of their job was to go out and capture slaves who escaped. That was their job. Yeah, 100% it was their job. Were there members of the KKK in the police department? Yes. Are there members today of the KKK in the police department? Yes.
So is it fair that we should change? So is it fair to say, like you said, because you were steadfast to say that the Democratic Party, in your text, you said they should change their name because the fact that they was a slave, they promoted slavery. Is it fair to say that the police department should change their name because they were slave catchers and they were racist and they were disrespecting people of color?
What police department?
Well, okay.
Are we gonna? Because you say we should. So we change the police department to what?
No, you saying that.
No, you're saying it. I'm not.
No, because what I'm trying to say is that you said the Democratic Party, and I'm just asking, and correct me if I'm wrong. We can go back to the text. The three of us have the text.
Yeah.
You said that let's change. Should the Democratic Party change their name?
Yeah.
Right? Because they were part of the slavery.
Agreed. I'm agreeing. Your next
what I'm trying to say is that the police department has been known to be just, i.e., similar to the Democratic Party in that aspect. When I'm talking about name in name. So go ahead.
But you're giving it. See, the problem is the Democratic Party has a title, right? It's the Democratic Party. It's the Republican Party. Right? You could change the name. You're saying the police department, not a specific one, but the police department should change its name. That's not possible. That's a description of all police departments, right? Like if you're telling me the Texas Rangers, if you were saying the Texas Rangers used to do this and we should change the name of Texas Rangers, that's a different conversation. But you're not giving me to change the name of the police department without a police department.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question then. Is it fair to say that it's been shown that without different police agencies, that they've shown to have racism in their agencies?
Is there racism in police departments? Yes.
So, with that being said, we know that the KKK existed in the police department.
Okay.
With that being said, there are people out here to this day that feel a certain way about the police department, as you articulated about.
Yeah, I get it. I completely understand that.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, you said to me because of the Democratic Party, and they were the initial birthright of slavery, even though they separated to branch off and do certain things.
Only some separated. The rest stayed. The Democratic Party stayed. That's the part you're missing with this bill. Democratic Party, a percentage left, went with others, formed the Republican Party, anti-slavery. The rest of the Democratic Party
not
stayed.
All of them were anti-slavery, though. That's where you're trying to. Go ahead.
Some of them stayed, and the Democratic Party stayed. And the pro-slavery Democratic Party, pro-segregation Democratic Party stayed. Did they evolve over time? Of course.
So my question to you, and we can move on after this, is that there have been law enforcement individuals that were pro-slavery, right? Pro disrespecting of people of color. All
Agreed.
KKK. And they may have got arrested, and they may have got fired, and they may have died off. But the culture is still the same. What you're saying is because of the Democratic Party, they didn't change their name. Now we're talking about law enforcement. It's a culture, just like the Democratic Party. You can't change the Democratic Party in Louisiana and the Democratic Party in New York City. If it's Democratic, it's Democratic. Correct?
The Democratic Party is the name of it. It's like the Republican Party. It's like the Independent Party. It's like Bill's Party, right?
But the bottom line is you're saying the Democratic Party should have changed their name because it was in the beginning it was about pro-slavery.
Absolutely, and that's the point. Isn't that the era we're in right now? We're removing founding fathers' names off of things because they were pro-slavery, right? We're changing names of schools, streets. We're moving statues. All these things are being done because we're looking backwards at history and saying, I know that guy was a whatever president, but he had slaves, so he's out. And he'll no longer be, a street named after him, school named after him, bridge. We've changed them all. We're doing that to presidents, correct? The Democrat Party was also in that. How come we haven't removed their name?
Well, and I agree with you. If that's the case, I'm not disputing that. But then why don't we change the police department? Because they have.
I've gone back to it. That change what? Like, I've got a very specific thing here. The Democratic Party should now be called the whatever party. Goes from Democratic Party to Black Party. You're saying change the name of the police department. What police department? What for? Like,
well, wait a minute.
What
That's what I'm trying to say, Kevin. The police department has shown that no matter what city, state, or country, it has shown that racism and police brutality has existed. So the bottom line is, that's facts. You're
okay.
a person. So you just said earlier that you agree that they were slave catchers, right? We understand. We saw Mississippi burning. All of us did. We understand that it was the police department went and killed those individuals, those 3 people, right? With that being said, that tainted the eye. If you're talking about tainting the eye, if you can't accept the fact that some of the Democrats left and started their own Republican Party to start racism and keep racism alive on another and to call it the Republican, you have to understand that, wait a minute, they've done it for the police department. If I said they've left, they retired, they died off, or they've gotten fired, the bottom line is the police department is still known as a organization that has disrespected people of color. They've known as people they've lynched, killed, and done everything. And to this day, 2021, we're talking about a female sergeant or officer that mistakenly took her gun for her taser and killed somebody. She's on trial. So the bottom line is the culture has superseded damn near just as long as the Democratic Party. And if that's the case, why don't we change the name of the police department to CPR, People's Community Law, anything? If you're talking about change the Democratic Party name from the because your whole thing is it's a disrespect to you didn't say disrespect. Your thing is that the Democratic Party was about racism. If the police department was about racism, why can't we change their name? All of them.
Well, it's not that simple, right? The Democrat Party is easy.
Why is it easy?
Because it's a Democrat Party, you can change it to a different name. Your police department is a description of a genre of a profession. So it is. You want to change it? Call it something else. We're not police officers. We're I don't know. What are we? Come up with a new name.
Well, I mean, if we're Democrats, we're not Democrats and we're not Republicans, what are we? We're politicians.
Before there were Democrats and Republicans, there were Whigs and there were other parties. There's been other parties. A party name, it's the name of a party, the name of a building that can be changed. Just like we've changed buildings and streets and names of schools, it can be changed. Changing what we call, teachers, schools, fire departments, police departments, that's a whole genre of something. It's not as simple as a one item, the title. It's not a title. If we realize that X police department, whatever it is, I don't even want to name one, was a real, an issue. We want to change the name of that police department. It's worth a discussion.
I'm going to let Chuck come in and then we can move on. But my thing is, it is easy. You can change football teams' names from being disrespectful to American Indians. You can tear down statues. And the only reason why I brought this up because your thing was about the political parties. And if you're saying if it's so easy to change political parties, a name of a political party, which a political party supersedes the whole country, either you're Democratic or you're Republican or you're independent, you take a stance on something. The police department is a choice. You choose to join that police department. But the bottom line is joining the police department. Chuck, yourself, and myself, we all understood when we joined the police department that we understood about Mississippi burning. We understood that the KKK, and we still took a choice to join, right? But the bottom line is if somebody said to us, well, listen, because of that disrespect that they've done to people of color, we're going to change the name to servant law enforcement. I don't have a problem with the shit. I don't. But the bottom line is, don't tell me it's all right to change the Democrats and not the Republicans, but we can't change the law and police department because the bottom line is we're talking about specific things. The police department is one big thing. When one person does something in New York, the person in Louisiana gets blamed for the shit. The person in Mississippi does something, the person in New York gets blamed for it, or in Philadelphia or in Chicago or New Orleans. So the bottom line is we still want umbrella. When they talk about Blue Lives Matter, they don't say what city you belong to. When they talk about Black Lives Matter, they talk about certain things. So that's my point.
I gotcha.
Okay, so go ahead, Chuck. I'll bring Chuck in, and Chuck, give me your take.
I mean, I agree on both ends of the spectrum with both you guys. I understand the issue associated with the Democratic Party. Yes, the Democratic Party, unfortunately, was the actual party of slavery. I mean, they fought. They wanted to keep slavery. And as historically, as we spoke about earlier, yeah, there were certain Democrats that left the Democratic Party, right? You had Whigs, you had Federalists. I think it was another like the Federalists. They had so many different divisions of politicians, and they were against slavery, and then they formed the Republican Party. But to Kevin's point, yes, the Democratic Party was still the Democratic Party, and there were certain people that did leave the Democratic Party because guess what? They were opposed to slavery. Now, the issue in terms of the police department, yes, most departments or most of the main goal and the main reason that police departments were created was because they didn't want these free Negroes to get beside themselves. It was to catch Negroes, unfortunately, slaves, and then even when in fact there were certain sections of the country where there were free slaves, the police department was also there for the purpose of putting their foot on those free slaves to make sure that they stayed in check. We can't have these brothers and sisters thinking they're equals with us, so we need a police department to ensure that they stay in their place. So unfortunately, the police department has a pervasive, police department overall has pervasive history in regards to doing things or acting and behaving in a manner which is against those of color. So that's the unfortunate history associated with police departments. And yes, does the overall mission change depending on what legislator or whatever that magistrate may say? Well, the new direction of the police department is this, or the new police department is that, or you get a different mayor and he wants to change the direction. Yes, that is true. But we know historically that most police departments were created for the purposes of ensuring that they could catch slaves and to keep Black people, communities in some type of check. I don't want to use the wrong words, but to keep them in check.
No, but you can use that word because that's the beautiful thing about this podcast, Chuck. You can use that word. And that's my point. My thing is that we can't say we can change one party just because we can want to change it, and then we can't change another thing because the bottom line is only Republicans bring up the fact that the Democratic Party was about slavery, but everybody brings up the problem about the police department harassing and disrespecting people of color. The only people that don't bring that up are people that are pro law enforcement and don't care about people of color. Otherwise than that, people of color are speaking up about that. We've been talking about it for years. The slave catcher, the slave man, the man has done this. He's done this to do that, to that. The Black Panthers. You got law enforcement. You can't get damn near. And I don't even know if Kevin. And no disrespect to you, Kevin, on this, but I don't even know if we can get a white person to say, besides Jane Fonda and a lot of those other people, to say about the Black Panthers and what they really did for the people of color. But the bottom line is, I say this all the time. Anybody of color that has done something for people of color, you've had, and not you, Kevin. So I say that with all affection. No, because I don't want him to think I'm directing at him. That he might be a part of this shit too, because he white. You know what I'm saying? He didn't look in the mirror today. I'm gonna let him know he white. That they always want to tell people of color who their leaders should be. You understand what I'm saying? But bottom line is, you can't tell us who we should follow. You tell us who we should follow because it conflicts with what you believe in and coincides with what your ideology is. But the bottom line is, if you talk about what's best for us, you would never tell us who our leaders should be. Kevin, Chuck, you can both comment on that, whatever you want to.
I'm good. I want
to
hit up the first video. This is an easy one.
Okay, so
then we'll go into something a little more.
Everybody, the moral of this story was Kevin was supposed to apologize to me because I proved him wrong. And
no,
he didn't. Wait a minute. We're going to go to the video, but he weaseled out. He slime balled his little self out of this shit. Don't
start calling names and things until we go back in the video. You didn't hear the question or the statement. I said the Democrat Party was the party of slavery, and you said no, it changed parties. They switched sides. You're the one who was wrong, but we'll go back to it.
Like I said, anyway, everybody... He slime balled and weaseled his way out. And what it is.
There he goes again.
All right, so listen, let's go to the new video. Everybody, first and foremost, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with Chuck and Kevin and Chuck. And you know, the mayor-elect has brought in a chancellor for schools. David, is David Banks. He's also brought in a Black female for law enforcement. We definitely will talk about that. We're going to talk about Kim Potter. She killed unarmed individual. She mistaken her gun. She mistaken her taser for her gun. I would love to know what these two gentlemen take on that situation.
We talked about that when it happened. We went through that video. We did. We can go back.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about. That's why we have a podcast. We talk about shit again. I mean, if you don't mind,
I'm not feeling the Christmas love today.
That is coming, baby. They just coming.
I just want you to know that's right now, as pseudo journalists,
is to repeat yourself over and over. That's fine.
I mean, we just talk about shit like that. That's just happens. So, what video do we have up to bat, Kevin?
The judge.
Okay. Oh, everybody, now listen, please. Give me your take on this. We have a judge. We can give a real brief synopsis on this judge. She's a court judge. She got robbed, not her personally. I mean, her family. I think they broke in a car or something of that magnitude. And then she's caught on video. Maybe her family doesn't like her because who leaked it but her family? And right? I mean, that's real talk. Yeah. And she's using profanity with the N-word. And she's calling the N-word like somebody's using the word love during Valentine's Day. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the bottom line is, I want to get your take on this. We're going to talk about everything everybody is in here talking about tonight. We're going to get it in. So, please, I'm going to chime in right now as we watch this video. Go ahead, Kevin.
Let's see if 2G lets me do it.
Nigger! Again, we have a nigger! It's a nigger! Like a roach.
Look, that's me. No, I came from the backside.
Look, he trips over the He tripped twice. He tripped twice.
I was the only one running.
That's me. Kenny was standing. I'm the one that took him down. Kenny's just standing there.
He lied. That wasn't his wallet.
Yeah. That's my phone where it fell out.
Look, Mom. The dude had a phone on him. They should have taken his phone and stolen from him, that fucking asshole.
And now I'm going to have a gun.
Go and get the gun.
Important. Very important.
As me and Austin maintain control of the situation.
The great thing is we've got video. We've got fuck. Look, there with the car. Wait, look. There's
look, there comes
there's
Rebel.
Want to play that show? This was my sister's.
Lafayette City Court Judge Michelle Odnett asked for understanding, forgiveness, patience, and prayers for her and her son as requests for her resignation grow after a video recorded inside Odnett's home and containing racial slurs was circulated Monday. On the video, her family gathered to watch home security footage of an armed burglary that took place Saturday in their driveway. The clip, where a voice is heard saying, and mom's yelling nigger, nigger, to which another female voice answered, "We have a nigger, it's a nigger, like a roach," has prompted local officials and community organizers to express concern over Odinette's rulings since she was elected in 2020. As a proud black man and the Lafayette City Marshal, I strongly believe Judge Odnett should be held accountable for the words on the video, Lafayette City Marshal Reggie Thomas said Tuesday.
I'm going to pause it here, Bill, because I mean it's just more discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
We talked a little bit about this afternoon. I didn't listen to this, and I didn't realize, this is a video taken in their home. Like this is somebody's cell phone.
Right.
Absolutely.
This is a family member, somebody that she trusts, that obviously found it offensive and actually videotaped it.
If she would have came out and said, "That's not my voice, it's somebody else in that household," my kids, okay, that's not her defense, right? I've not heard her deny it. I've heard her ask for forgiveness. There's no question she's got to go, and she's not high, she's not drunk.
Yeah, but the bullshit is that she said she was sedated.
Yeah.
She says I was I was sedated. I was overwhelmed with emotion based on what occurred, which obviously you could tell there was a protective state because this is happening in the driveway. The person isn't breaking into her home, right? It's a car they're breaking into, and it's all on video. So it's something that she wasn't directly involved in or had to do anything in terms of interceding this particular crime that was being committed. And then she says, "No, I was so distraught. I happen to have been on sedatives." But then sedatives is what makes you say, "Oh, nigger, 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 nigger." I don't know. I'm just saying.
She said that shit like that was a punchline. Like,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna play it again because I'm dumbfounded. She's got to go.
Why are the lights
when I pull up in the whip, they be saying, "God damn."
Why are your lights on? They're like, pull up, pull up.
And mom's yelling, "Nigger! Nigger!"
Oh, Ken, we have a nigger. It's a nigger. Like a roach.
Look, that's me.
No, that's
I can't.
Now you see, they mentioned that mom is yelling it, so they're talking about, because this is a video of the incident. So that when the incident happened, she yelled it, and now saying it again afterwards.
Right.
So was she sedated both times?
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Sorry.
I don't know. Sorry.
No, you're right, Kevin. But does it even make a difference? Because the bottom line is,
no, Bill.
Like a friend of mine said earlier on one of my posts, they said Roseanne Barr used it when she talked about she was disrespectful and she had racial slurs and stuff. She said that she was sedated or she took some medicine. Is this the new thing, the new norm? And I'm not directing this at you, Kev, like, because you don't have the answer, of course, and I'm not asking you. But is this what the white people do when they want to disrespect people of color or anything, or just racial slurs in general? Do they want to say that, oh, I took medication? So if that's the case, then I'm going to say a lot of shit, and I'm going to blame it on Tito's, and I'm going to blame it on a lot of shit. You know
That's what I said this afternoon with you. But
yeah, but you trying to be disrespectful. You almost got your ass beat. You know what I'm saying? You almost got your ass beat.
How much did you have today?
You're trying to be derogatory. You know.
I was trying to be funny.
Let me read some of these comments and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Oh my God,
there's just no way of defending this woman. There really is.
No.
She's got to go. And anybody who's ever had a trial in front of her, a person of color.
And that's what's so questionable. If you're a person of color, if you ever had to be tried in front of her in a court, then who's to say that some of her decisions weren't based on her own biases and prejudices? You know, that's questionable. You know, I mean, it's very questionable.
Can I say that? Is it humanly possible for somebody to be on some medication, some high, and really things come out? Have I ever been drunk off my rocker and said stupid things to people? Maybe.
Maybe.
You know,
you said crazy shit to me when you were sober, so I know.
But
hey, you almost got your ass beat when you were sober.
that was
everybody. Yo,
she
ain't
high.
We can laugh and joke. And,
oh God, yeah.
Oh my God, man.
We have fun. Listen, our green room conversations. Only if you're privy to it, you will understand. We go at it. We go at it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-hosts Kevin and Chuck and Kevin. And we have so much to discuss tonight. We have the mayor-elect. Yeah, the commissioner. He just elected a black female, and I want you guys' take on that. We want to listen to her introduction speech, and he elected Chancellor David Banks, who has extensive career in education, and the former chancellor used to work for David Banks. He's done phenomenal things for charter schools and things of that magnitude. Some people may have problems with the fact that he is aligning himself with people of color. I, in the hand, don't have a problem with that, because this is not about color, but the bottom line is people will use the race card when it's a fact that a person of color, Latin or African American, aligns themselves with people that they are familiar with. No disrespect to Kevin, of course, but white people have been doing this for years. And the fact of it is, nobody could say anything about it. We've seen Cuomo. He's had an administration, and he hasn't had any black people of power in positions. And I have no
damn Democrats.
Exactly. You know, and you're right, because we know Republicans don't do shit, and when Republicans do it, they put coons in positions of power. You know what I'm saying? So they just they put get along, go along Negroes, and you know what I'm saying, that dance, they just shuffle on and they just dance and they dance and they dance. See, at least Democrats. You know what I'm saying?
Kevin went, oh my God.
Yo, listen. If I'm gonna get censored, I'm gonna get censored because I said what I wanted to say. I'm not gonna get censored for shit that I'm not gonna say. You understand what I'm saying? You know, so I say all that. People, we want to listen. A lot of times we know, Chuck, our Latin and our black people, sometimes we don't stick together on a lot of shit.
Oh, yeah.
We'll hate on each other on who's sleeping with this girl or who getting more money with that. But the bottom line is we hate a coon. You know what I'm saying? We hate a coon, true. And we hate a sellout. Listen, the bottom line is we all know that our counterparts are the people that we still can have love for. Because, and first and foremost, people, let me just say this. Anybody that's just chiming in, just hear me for the first time, I love everybody, but I'll call you out on anything and everything. And that's just what it is. I have no problems with that. You know what I'm saying? I put a post up today, and I'll reiterate it. I hope all the people that don't like me get together and try to find out what the hell you're going to do to me, because you ain't going to do shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I really don't. But the bottom line is, as long as I have this podcast and as long as I sit here before you, I will try to give you my most sincere thoughts on anything that I can. Sometimes it may not be as articulate as you may want it to be, but it's going to be truthful. Go ahead, Kevin. I know you want to say
There's a request by somebody if you could do that dance again.
What dance is that? Let me see. Oh, Vivian, how did they do that dance again? No, Vivian, they done shucked and jived for a long time. Listen, Vivian, you and I work together. We've seen a lot of people two-step. They done humming and hemming in the hard a long time just to get a day off. You understand what I'm trying to say? And right now, I'm at a point in my life at this beautiful age that I'm at that I don't know what's tomorrow's promise. I mean, for all those that's worked with me before, I was saying this in Kevin, you already know. That's why we cool now. I was saying this shit in 96. I say Chuck, you know, maybe in 94. I was saying what I wanted to say. Brother. Exactly. I've never been one to bite tongue.
Right.
I've never been that dude. I wasn't built like that. It's not in my DNA. You understand what I'm trying to say? So now with the evolution of social media and stuff like that, I can give you anybody else a chance to say what you want to say. Don't be scared. As my man said in the movie, in life, he said to Martin Lawrence, you were scared, wasn't you? Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Okay, Amir, text me and I'll send you the link. I'm going to bring you in, Amir. So definitely, we're going to have Amir joining us. And everybody, thank you all so much for chiming in with us. This is Happy Holidays, but we got stuff to talk about. Kev, what else we got to come up?
So what do you think of the new commissioner?
First and foremost, you want me to start off? Or you guys want to go
start? I don't care.
No, please go ahead, Kevin.
I'm intrigued. Right?
Okay.
She's the chief of detectives from Nassau County. Is a very prestigious spot. Is it a wild card pick? And he took a chance. Yeah. There's clearly something he saw. I'll say this way. Are there people whose resumes were better than hers? Yes. But just because you have a longer resume and you've done stuff for longer doesn't mean you're the best person for that job. So for me, it's let's see what she's got. You know, it's not somebody out of left field of like taking somebody in who has no law enforcement experience. She was a cop. Right? She worked her way up from the bottom. So I'm intrigued to see what she's got. There are plenty of people who've been police commissioners for a long time, who have been chiefs for decades, and they're kind of stale. And sometimes you got to get something new and try to change something up. So
I agree with you. Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I applaud the fact that he went outside of the department, more importantly. I mean, a lot of times because there's alliances and there are people who have allegiance to other individuals internally. And it also breaks up what I would always say was that good old boy network bullshit that the police department runs under. So, yeah.
Wait a minute, what you say? Say it again. What kind of network?
That good old boy bullshit network that's in the police department.
What kind of network was that? Was that from the whole police department? Good old boy network.
Yeah, man.
I didn't know you was listening, Kevin. My bad.
Yeah.
So I gotta get new headphones.
I just speak it, English.
I'm sorry, you guys saying something?
So I definitely applaud the fact that he brought someone outside of the department, and it appears that she has a good handle directly on community relations, because that's something that she's put out in terms of the way she has addressed issues, especially in Nassau. And it's funny, right? What a switch, right? You get her from Nassau coming in as a police commissioner. You got Rodney Harrison going out to be the police commissioner there. So it's just impressive, man, to see. Amir, what's going on, brother?
It is impressive to see Amir.
Good evening.
Hello, sir.
Good to see you, brother.
Doing? It's good to see you guys.
Man, good.
What's up, Amir? How you feel, brother?
I'm feeling good. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Y'all saw what I put in the comments. This is Cheetos and pineapple juice, but I'm just giving y'all a pre-warning so that y'all know. But I only had one drink, so I'm not drunk or anything like that.
Amir, is this like the preamble? You're giving us your excuse so you can say something bad later?
So we just saw a clear-cut indication of what happens when you can say what you want to say and then later come back and say, hey, Well, this
I'm
is
a
really why
sedated.
that happened. But again, just just to smile on some of the topics that you gentlemen have touched on tonight, and as always, Bill, thank you for having me on the platform. Charles, great to see you. Kevin, great to see you as well, sir. First and foremost, the Democratic thing that y'all spoke about earlier about the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. This is what I'll say about that. While it is a great point that Kevin brought up about how the original situation was this, that, and the third. Here's the real issue. The real issue is this. We live in a country now where, in terms of us actually teaching that to the children so that they understand how and why we got here, we're trying to sweep that under the rug. So that's the biggest issue that I have with that particular situation. If we really want to clear up whatever, let's not change anything. Let's tell the truth so that this generation of young people have an understanding of exactly where
Put
it's
your damn hands down because you part of the problem and shit. Anyway, go ahead.
How it started and why we've gotten to the space that we're in. Until we can do that honestly and openly, we're always going to have this division that we have. So that's the first thing I'd like to address, because I came in on the tail end of that, and I thought that was such a powerful conversation that you gentlemen were having. I say that because I know, as an African American here in New York City and in the world, and you gentlemen are all police officers. The real reason why I asked to come in here is because you all are speaking from the standpoint of actually also being officers. So even though you have your ideologies about what you have experienced and what you've gone through, you're in law enforcement. I'm not in law enforcement. I happen to be a civilian who has experienced varying things. So speaking for the regular Joe and the normal people who have to out here deal with you gentlemen from the other side, it makes sense to just have somebody else who has a perspective that's slightly different. So that's the first thing I wanted to address. Secondly, to the point of the new mayor-elect putting the pieces in place that he's putting in place. Bill made a great point of saying, he's making an emphasis seemingly of putting people of color in place to, see how this works out. Look, I know that nobody wants to have this conversation because, again, this is what we don't do. We're in a time, unfortunately, where because it's a cancel culture, we have to do things which aesthetically to the eye and to the eye test make sense. I'm not saying that Eric Adams is doing that in this particular circumstance, but the reason why I bring that into the conversation is because, in all fairness, we're at a place right now where if you work in corporate America, if you work in the police force, if you work in varying other things around this country, people are trying to save face by putting people of color in places that they've never been before. That's just a fact. I'm not something I'm making up. Y'all go around, look, talk to your friends, talk to family members. That's just what they're doing. But they're doing that because we'd like to, honestly say we made a valid effort. To something Kevin just said a minute ago, regardless to what color, what creed, what all these other varying things that we look at, let's just put the best people in place to get the best job done. Period. The problem is we've become so enamored with this cancel culture that everything that we do has to be seen under a microscope, super thinly and super finely. I'm not sure if any of you gentlemen, I'm just going to switch the conversation for a quick second because I had to bring this up on the live that I was on earlier. But I'm not sure if any of you gentlemen have seen the information about It's a Wonderful Life. Apparently, there's a group of people now trying to cancel It's a Wonderful Life because there was a scene where Jimmy Stewart, I think either he lost his memory or his wife loses his memory. He kisses her. She can't remember or he can't remember, and he shakes her. And everybody's going, oh, my God, he's abusive. First of all, that was written back in the 40s and 50s. I don't even know which it was. I just know I wasn't around when that was written and or filmed. But to that point, this new generation who is, you can't tell them anything because it hurts my feelings and it makes me feel a certain way. That's where we are now. So we have to live in a world where, unfortunately, we no longer can just say the things that we technically feel and or think need to be said because there are a million people who want to go, Bill, you're wrong for expressing it in that way. Chuck, you're wrong for expressing it that way. Kevin, I can't believe that you would even have the gumption or the gall to even say it in that way. And that's where we are.
I can second emotion that. No, I'm sorry. I'm just,
You understand what I'm saying?
I'm just sorry.
Amir,
I
I was on the note of what you're saying. You know, it's part of the fear of me being on this show, right? Like it takes, like we're going backwards and looking at movies and things and go, oh my God, this is awful. End this and kill this book, kill that. One little thing I say is perceived bad. I'm a dead man. Like, you know, it just takes one tweet with one video clip of Kevin said this, and all of a sudden I am the, you know, and it's not an easy world. It's not easy to be out public. It's not easy for a politician. It's not easy for, you know, anybody who wants to stick their neck out. It's actually safer now to shut up.
Well, let me just interject for a second. And Kevin, I say this with all due respect because you are one of a few that doesn't mind embarking in engaging in having a conversation. But the things that you say sometimes still don't give you credit for saying them because the bottom line is people respect you for saying it, but then they understand why there's an ideology and there's a thought process on certain things and things of that magnitude. It doesn't make you wrong. It makes you, and I say this with all due respect, it makes you white. You know what I'm saying? And because the bottom line is, you're exactly. I know, and you're a redhead white person, and that's crazy. It's crazy. But you know, Kevin, and let me just go back. If I can give you the best analogy that I can give you, you remember when you, Chuck, and myself were having a conversation about guys shooting crap in the street, and I would say that I would never arrest anybody if they were shooting crap and they got into a fight. And I found out that somebody ass bet and they got into a fight and one guy got beat up. And you was like, well, what happened if a guy pressed charges? I said, in the streets doing crap, nobody would ever press charges, right? But you said, which was fair to you, unbeknown to you, you maybe have never experienced that. I don't know what my white friends have experienced in lieu of, you know, maybe arguing over a hockey game or playing what's the little ball game off the table that bounces in the
beer pong.
Yeah, but bounces in the beer, and then y'all get mad over somebody spilt my beer and then buy me a new beer. Y'all might kick each other's ass all over that bar for some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Where I might be like, it was just fucking beer. You know what I mean? People like, no. That boy went in his beer and he didn't buy me my beer. Oh, okay, I get it now. It's about respect, and that was the moral of my story. Hold on, Amir. That was what I'm trying to say. The gist of my conversation and my statement is that culturally we will never understand what another culture understands, because unless we are embarked in that, it's just like. Shame on us for a white person that has soul and rhythm, and we look at him and say he wants to be black. Shame on white people that see a white person that wants to hang with people of color or Latin people and say, "Yo, he wants to be a so and so." Shame on us when we see a person that dates outside of his race and say he doesn't want to do that, or say shame on us to see a person of color that has white friends. And the first thing we want to say is he's a sellout and is a coon. I think people of color know the difference of a sellout and a coon and things of that magnitude, and what we deem from a hood standpoint of what is coonish, if I make up that word. You know what I'm saying? I say all that to say that in a world that we live in, what Amir was saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amir, there's a lot of cancel culture. Listen, I say what I say and I mean what I say. You understand what I'm trying to say? That's why I love Dave Chappelle. Kevin, you and I, we talked about this sidebar too. Dave Chappelle broke shit down so disrespectfully, elegantly. You know what I'm saying? Disrespectfully for those that
the man is a genius.
Yeah, but you know,
he's the genius of comedy, right? Like there might be people who may be funnier over the course of time, but his genius is unmatched.
But you know what's so funny? It's only unmatched because it's at a time when he's going against the grain. Really, he's just as fun. He's no funnier than Richard Pryor or stuff like that. But at that time, or Eddie Murphy, at that time, they co-signed that disrespect, because the bottom line is, what black comedians did back then, or Latin comedians did, they talked about white people all the time, and they never got ostracized. The bottom line is, a white person talk about a black person and use the N-word, oh, they want to hit him with pitchforks. You understand what I'm trying to say? So now David Chappelle is like, he's coming at the most power, the cancer culture in the world. He came at gays and lesbians and all that kind of shit, like the LGBT. I can't. Well, there's so many acronyms. I don't know.
We know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. He came at them, and he was just like straight fire. Like, and he hit him with the soft punch. He was like,
yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, people were like, ah! But the shit was funny. Comedy is supposed to be funny. We live in a world now, right now, is we can't tell jokes. We can't say, Kevin, Chuck, Amir, you would not know this. Kevin, Chuck, and myself, we come from a culture where if people heard what we said in the 90s, we would all lose our jobs.
True. Very true.
We said the most disrespectful things to each other. The skits, the memes. Let me tell you something. We did memes before there were memes.
Yes.
People would cut and paste. If you handled your kites and your reports like you did, you cut and paste shit, you'd be a first grade detective. Let me tell you something. The things that we did, Amir, was so disrespectful to one another. But the shit was the funniest shit. I worked with Chuck, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. We worked with some of the funniest people in our lives.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. We had laughs every day. We at each other's expense, and we all loved it. It wasn't laughing at Amir who wasn't in the room. It was laughing at Amir with Amir in the room, and it was laughing at Chuck with Chuck in the room, and then laughing at Kevin.
In your face.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nobody got hurt.
And I think to that exact point, that's what I mean. So, again, with us being in the cancel culture that we are in now, it's hard to maneuver this new format of the world. I don't care who you are. Kevin is absolutely right. For him to come on this show every week and, to share his views on, specific things that affect the entire free world is a bit challenging, because there were people who, I'm sure in his circle, Kev, how could you get on there and you say that? But to your point, Bill.
You know what's funny, Amir? And I want to hold you on that because Bill's thought this. I have yet to have any one of my friends question why I'm on here.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's a beautiful thing.
Now I didn't keep account of my Facebook friends on who's left me.
Okay.
Like you don't get notified when they disappear off your feed, but I will say nobody's said it.
But I'll say this to something.
Yeah, let me interject for a second. Kevin doesn't have friends.
But
like Kevin goes up into the mountains.
He's got mountain buddies. He got mountain buddies.
He goes up in the mountains and talk to the deer and the antelope play. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying?
Like, if we were back in the locker room, I would come back with a comment, but here I got to be polite.
But I will say this, Bill, you brought up an absolutely, a great point. There are just cultural differences. And I think one of the challenges that we have now is learning how to, first of all, listen and then understand those cultural differences and then put them in perspective. Right now, we just, so sensitive about everything. And it doesn't make a difference what it is. I heard y'all mention, like you said, the renaming of teams and, various things. Bill, you know this. Chuck, you may be familiar with this. Kevin, you may even be familiar with this. My brother played for St. John's, early on in his career before he, went professional. So, St. John's was known as the Redmen forever. And then, they changed to the Red Storm now or something now. I forget exactly what the name is. But I bring that up because exactly to that point, my whole my brother's whole career at St. John's was they was the red men, and we chanted and we did whatever we did, and we made light of the things that we made light of, but it wasn't in any way, shape, or form seemingly at that time as a way to denigrate, disrespect, and or make fun of another culture or another group of people. Like I said, our biggest challenge is we
Amir,
don't
can
do
I
it.
interject for 1 second,
Sure.
please?
Uh-huh.
I totally agree with you. And I say that to say that I think we have all come from a standpoint where we've been told what has been acceptable. Like I said, we've never asked Indian people and what do they feel offended by the Redmen or the Braves or the Cleveland Indians or the Washington Redskins. We never asked them because white people had the power. And this, like I said, Kevin, this is no disrespect to you, but the bottom line is we've accepted that and we've gone along with that terminology. So then all of a sudden, when people have started getting power where we can change laws, we've been like, wait a minute. I don't like you calling me brown skin or red skin or that skin. Now, for one thing, I can say maybe certain things can get a little carried away. Can get just like everything people like want to change all kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Do I agree with statues and shit like that? Absolutely. I mean, Christopher Columbus, do I think that should be changed? Absolutely. Because the bottom line is I think it's an insult to Italian Americans that Christopher Columbus, for a person that has done so much pilferage and disrespect to people of other nationalities and cultures, still have that name. It should be called Italian Day or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line, just to give Christopher Columbus, he discovered America, but he was
Rocky
a gangster.
Balboa Day.
Huh?
Rocky Balboa Day.
I wouldn't give a damn. Yeah, go call it Rocky Balboa Day. Call it Carlito's Way. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Call it Robert De Niro Day. I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, do I certain things? Absolutely. Should they be changed? But the thing is, we have people so willingly to fight against change, and I get that people don't like change. I don't like change. If my wife puts something on the left side and I'm used to it to be on the right side, I'm gonna look at her sideways when I look for it on the left side and it's not there. So I mean, to the minuscule to the mountain, it is what it is. Go ahead, Amir, please.
But again, to that exact point, that's what I mean. The change to me again isn't necessarily the problem. The issue is really giving contextual rhetoric that allows people to understand how and why things might have to be changed and or where they originate from. So then this way you can truly take it in. We don't do a great job of that as a whole. I'm not saying as individual, I'm talking about on a collective basis, and especially in this country, because in all fairness to the and I wrote this in the chat, both parties have stains on them based off of slavery. It doesn't make it one party or the other parties cross the bear. It's both parties cross the bear, because in all fairness, both parties first and foremost benefited from it. Secondly, the entire country benefited from it. And here's where it really gets to be ugly, and people again don't want to take solace of, don't want to It has caused certain families to have generational wealth. It has caused certain other families to not have generational wealth. With that having been said, it needs to be talked about, it needs to be shared, and there needs to be an understanding of how certain things came to pass. We as African Americans, find out things every year on a yearly basis, especially, once February comes around, quote unquote, because that seems to be the month that has been deemed Black History Month. For a good portion of us, how many people really know that Central Park was really an African American, situation. It wasn't a park. It was where the African Americans who were part of the, New York situation stayed. This is where they lived. It
Right.
got turned into a park. But I say that because then we have to really think about this. So let me understand this. You move these people off the land. You redirected them into various other areas and situations, redlining, various other, terminology could be used. Made a beautiful park, but then you left the people who you displaced in shambles.
Shambles.
Is that really fair to those people? See, that's what I'm saying. These are the conversations that really need to be had and or brought up, and they need to be brought up in school. They need to be brought up in universities. They need to be brought up in barbershops. They need to be brought up in halls and places that people hang out. Why? Because then we can really start to heal. Until you actually address whatever the issue is and or say what we've been through, then you can't have any healing. And our problem as a country is we won't have the conversation because we have people in power and people in place who say to themselves, well, once you bring that up, that's going to make this group feel this way. But when you have a group of people who have been feeling that way their entire, generation after generation, which one is more fair?
Mhm.
Which one do you give more solace to? Which one do you give more power to? Or do you say at some point, enough is enough and we got to start the healing process? And I think that's what we're really up against.
Absolutely. Listen, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with all three of my hosts. We got Chuck, Kevin, Amir. We got Amir, Chuck, and Kevin. Yeah, we got all the cats in the building. It's a beautiful thing. Kevin, my man Roscoe wanted to ask you a question. He said, what do you feel about critical, what is it?
Critical race theory.
Yeah, critical race theory. What's your thought on that?
You know, I've talked about this for a long time. We need to teach more things in our schools, right? And I'm with Amir. You have to teach our ugly history and our good history. You know, the fact that I went to a New York City public school and learned nothing. Sorry, my child's calling.
Yeah, okay. Chuck, what's your thought process? But we'll give Kevin a chance to take care of little Kev.
Well, once again, the main problem, especially as Amir had actually made statements to, we really need to start to look at things in its organic and its generic way. Everything we have, if we're going to be truthful, we're going to play into the narrative. Let's play into the narrative and let's say everything associated with the narrative, and all of it, in fact, is not going to be pretty, right? It's all not going to be good. And historically, this country, unfortunately, was built on the backs of slavery, was built on the backs of immigrants, and there was a lot of, excuse the expression, dirty shit that was done, period. And in order for us to have a clear-cut understanding of where this country and how it got to where it is, it's imperative that we speak about everything associated with it. And yes, critical race theory, despite the fact that this is, well, it's something that's really pretty much studied in a university having to do with law and so on and so forth. That particular issue, even though it isn't spoken about in schools as of yet, even the mere fact that they're even considering it, you see this backlash of these people coming from out of the woodwork and complaining that, whoa, we don't want that taught to our kids. They're also doing things in terms of, I can't remember the actual area, but there's one particular place where the Board of Education in that particular region is actually ensuring that 3 particular books can no longer be taught within that school. They can't use certain words. They don't want things taught in the schools. You can't use the word diversity. You can't say woke. You can't. It's like 20 words that they want removed from the curriculum. So this, once again, is because the ugliness associated with this country and everything that it's done and where we are now, they'd rather just say, hey, look, things are better now. Why are we bringing up all this stuff? Please, let's just leave it alone and let's just move forward. No, in order for us to move forward, there has to be a particular point where there has to be a great deal of honesty. And honesty is sometimes, just because you tell the truth doesn't mean that's not going to hurt. It's going to be some pain associated. But we have to make sure very clearly that we're honest about the history associated with this country. And saying all of a sudden critical race theory, no, we don't want that taught. You haven't taught real history to begin with. Now you got a problem with this. Let's deal with history as it really presents itself. Because as far as I'm concerned, the real history of this country is critical. It is, right? It is critical. And I find that it's something that needs to be placed, and it needs to be a staple within all education, regardless of where it is. Where it's, I'm sorry, start them young. I don't give a fuck. Kindergarten. Tell them about. I don't care. Start when they're 5 years old. Make them very clear on what is the issues associated with race, what it's created, what's slavery, and anything having to do that, because that, in essence, as far as I'm concerned, that is a critical issue. That is a critical matter, and it's something that needs to be taught.
Amir?
I think that it's funny. I'm a big proponent of the fact that as a collective, again, our country is big on words and using words, and I think that one of the real challenges that we also have as a whole is understanding the power of words. So when we say things like critical race theory, it takes on a different connotation. It takes on a different energy, a different synergy. Bill and Chuck, you may be aware, and Kevin, like I said, you might be aware if you've done any Googling on me or any, kind of checking my background. I always say
Kevin
one of the
did.
real issues.
Kevin did.
Kevin did. Mr. Stats, he did.
No, but the reason why I bring that up is because I always say this to people. I've told this, story on this platform and as well as other platforms. My mom, just recently brought this to my attention. My father does not say he was a bodyguard for Malcolm X. My father says he protected his brother and his friend. So I always utilize that when I say it now as well, because that was my father's words. But the reason why I bring that into the conversation is because my mother and father were a part of American history. We tend to compartmentalize things and say it's Black history. It wasn't Black history, because at the time when they were going through and doing the things that they were doing, they were trying to make the world better for everybody. They weren't just trying to make it better for Black people. They weren't trying to make it better for white people. They weren't trying to make it better for Latino people. They were trying to make it better for everybody. And one of the real issues that I have with this country and what we do is we compartmentalize things, because that makes us feel warm and fuzzy. That makes us feel good. And what that does is it takes away what the impact of certain things that have gone on in this country and how it has impacted the entire free world, not just one group or the other group. And once we can strip away that kind of, ideology and that kind of wording, then we will again start the healing process, because now we will say, to Chuck, a point that Chuck just made, this is history. This isn't one group's history. This is really the history and what it is and what has happened and how we got here and why we are here, and some of the things that are the ramifications of these, particular instances and moments in time. Until we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Until we can honestly have that kind of dialogue, the rest of it to me is almost pointless to me. But that's how the way I see it. So that's why I wanted to convey it that way.
No, and that's an excellent point, and that's going to segue for me back to the mayor-elect selected a African American woman, because I know that is an elephant in the room for a lot of people, and I want to get your take on it. In lieu of, we talked about it earlier, he's aligning himself with people of color that he feels can do the job. There might be people from all different ethnicities, because people of color are not used to seeing people in power. We used to seeing one person, and then we all throw the darts at him, and we call him the coon or her the coon. And if she ain't doing what we want her to do, let me tell you something. I've never seen people of color harder on our own people than they are on anybody else. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. White persons, get a pass every damn day, but a person of color, poop, 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 poop. You think a white person in power is Jason Bourne? Let me tell you something. All eyes on his ass. I never forget. I'll say it right here. I'll say it in front of everybody. I'll say it in front of Kevin. I've seen people shoot at Al Sharpton left and right. So disrespect. Let me tell you something. Whether I agreed or disagreed with Al Sharpton, I never talked bad about Al Sharpton in front of anybody else that wasn't a person of color. The bottom line is, because I'm not going to give a white person, and I don't say this with any disrespect to you, Kevin, but I'm not going to give a white person any power to say, oh, well, Bill said Al Sharpton wasn't shit, or Jesse Jackson wasn't shit, or this person wasn't shit, because I've seen them do it. I've been in the same office with them, and they've said, "Oh, Peter Pan said so and so wasn't shit." The bottom line is, they will never denounce Donald Trump. Like Kevin and I, we was in the green room. We were talking about certain things. We were talking about with the text messages from the Fox newscasters to Mike, what's his name? Mike Meadows or whatever his name is.
Meadows.
Yeah,
Meadows.
right. And it just showed how much of a slime ball 45 was, and even people that had his back still was like, "Yo, you need to fall back." He was like, "No, no, no," but they never came out and denounced him. So why do we as people of color denounce our own? You understand what I'm saying, Amir and Chuck and Kevin? So I say all that to say, and Kevin, you will never understand that. You can only hear that because you know, you can only stand what people of color will say about each other. I say all that to say that, you know, that going forward, you know, I applaud the fact that he took a chance on this female. First and foremost, he took a chance on a female. Would I have cared if she was a white female? No. Or a Latin female? Not at all. I wouldn't have cared at that point, because I trust the process. The fact that he took a female that has knowledge of law enforcement and close to New York City. Nassau is not far from New York City. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So she gets the news, just like when I'm in PA or DC, I get the news adjacent to the big city. You know, like if you wherever you are, you know, you're gonna get the news adjacent to the biggest city right there. You know what I'm saying? If you sidebar someplace. With that being said, I've listened to a press conference. I want Kevin to play that so we can all hear what she said. She was very articulate. She talked about what she wanted to concentrate on. The bottom line is, if she changes this shit around, it'll be phenomenal. It'll be something that, let me tell you something. If she changes this shit around, the fact that under Eric's tutelage, Eric will go down in not just history as being the second Black African-American mayor, but he will go around and changing the whole landscape of law enforcement and crime. Because right now, we all agree. Kevin, what do you say about de Blasio? What was he?
He's the great unifier. Both sides hated him.
Exactly. De Blasio has shown us what it's like. It's not to be a great politician. So I say all that to say that I don't have a problem giving her a chance. I like what she said. I want us all to listen to it again. He had a lot of other people in the scope, and when it comes to her, me seeing why he picked her, I get it. Philadelphia PD commissioner, she's in PA. She doesn't know about New York. Not that the fact that she may not know how to navigate structure. The other woman that he was looking at, this lady was the closest woman to New York, kind of from New York. I don't know how long, because a lot of people.
She lived here. She was born here.
Huh?
She was born here. She grew up in
here, but you know,
New York City.
She grew up in the projects.
She's from Queensbridge, but you know how that shit is. A lot of people be
That's like half a project.
I'm from so and so. Well, how long was you here? I left when I was 2 months. Oh, okay. I get it.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying? I see a lot of people they rep a place when it behooves them. I don't know how long she stayed in Queensbridge, but she's claiming Queensbridge.
Okay.
Cool.
Well,
and Jamaica.
Jamaica. The one thing that we do know is, like I said, Nassau, Suffolk County, Westchester, you get our news. So you know what's going on. She was the chief of detective. It wasn't like she was working at Kmart packing groceries, and no disrespect to anybody that's packing groceries at Kmart. But I'm just trying to say, no, because somebody will be saying,
yeah, people get ultra sensitive. Yeah, you got
people. Then I had to smack the shit out of somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because then they'll be saying, "Oh, Bill don't appreciate people that pack groceries." You know what I'm saying?
No,
but what I'm trying to say is that she knows law enforcement. To be the chief of a detective, Chuck and Kevin, unbeknown to you, Amir, that is probably one of the most hardest jobs in investigations, to be a detective, to detect and figure out stuff. Listen, man, patrol pass, we all know, Kevin, Chuck, patrol passes it on to the detective squad. Detective squad closing. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, so she knows about case and solving situations. Listen, she's young. She has something to prove as a woman of color, and as to be anointed to commissioner. I mean, come on, you coming under Eric's regime. So the bottom line is, I don't see Eric putting anybody in there that he thinks is going to fail. I defer to Chuck, Kevin, and Amir. Go ahead.
No, I agree 100%. Like I said, she's definitely going to be a game changer, because it breaks up that good old boy network, which has been systemic throughout the police department. It wasn't someone that was chosen internally. She's coming from the outside. So her overall direction is that she has to have an allegiance to anyone internally within the police department. She can go on, assess, start to dissect, implement some new things. And the only person that she has to have any type of loyalty to, technically, is to Eric. Other than that, it's her department. She can do what she sees fits. And I think she's going to be something that's going to energize and put a different face on the police department. And she's very community oriented, which I think is what we need. People want to be in a position that they see communities, or rather, they want to see officers that are a reflection of the community that they serve. And based on the fact that, yes, she's originally from Queens, she worked out in Nassau, she's the chief of detectives. She's coming with a great resume in terms of her work ethic and recognition from being the chief of detectives in Nassau. I think she's going to be a great fit, and I'm really intrigued to see the turns that she's going to make and within the department internally.
Kev, I know you mentioned it earlier.
I'm going to give you a bold prediction on Eric Adams. If he does what he says he's going to do, all of the things he has talked about, because Eric is one of the few Democrats who's not afraid to go at the wacky left and call them out. Right? And he is pro-cop law enforcement. He's looking to turn things around. If he does what he says, that guy's going to be president.
Oh, we already knew that. I already knew that. I could have told you that. Yeah, because the bottom line is, running New York City, Kev, like you said, I mean, like the bottom line is, to run New York City, if he changes, because let's look what happened to Cuomo. And
as long as he doesn't have a Bernie Kerik, skeleton in his closet.
Right.
That's my one little.
No, exactly. Yeah, because the bottom line is, we all know how Trump had all those skeletons in the closet, and shit happened to him. So we already know.
And still got elected.
When you're a Democrat, you can't have skeletons. You can't have. You're not
telling me Hillary didn't have skeletons? Come on, my friend.
Yeah, but she didn't win.
That's the difference.
That's the
guy in office doesn't have skeletons, and the guy who just got thrown out of the governor's office here didn't have skeletons.
Who are you talking about?
Cuomo. But I think
Biden's family.
He's thrown out.
Yeah, but I'm saying he had skeletons when he won.
But Trump became a president.
Yeah.
And
skeletons and all.
Yeah, exactly. Skeletons and all. And right. people still applaud him.
I'm not one.
And to the point, what'd you
say?
What did you just say, Kev? What did you say? I
said there are some, and I'm not one.
Oh, I thought
you said you all won. I was about to. Oh man, I was about. The coal and everything was about to leave my. Oh, that was man.
I just cured COVID and Chuck.
You did, yo, exactly. Yo,
that virus just died off his body.
I was like, oh my god. I'm like,
so
what?
to your point, first and foremost, I think that obviously this is definitely a bold move for the new elect mayor of New York. And look, in order for us to get some drastic changes, we might have to do some drastic things. I know in the past we have had situations where people have supposedly tried drastic things and the outcome has been disastrous or whatever the case may be. But I will say this, because I'm again, this is just me speaking for me. One of the interesting things about our male dominated world is, for whatever reason, we tend to overlook the fact that females are one, nurturers by virtue of who they are, and two, they do the one thing that none of us can do. They bring life. So they see the world, and their compassion for certain things is way different than any of the four men who are sitting here on this platform right now, any other dude that we know. I tell people all the time. Women are true bosses because they can bring life. We only contribute to it. They actually bring life. That's a whole different boss-like situation. You can talk all the toughness you want, but you cannot create and sustain a life. No dude on this panel right now could do that. No dude in the world can do that. That's what makes women so much more stronger and or different from us, because they can actually create and or sustain life. So with that having been said, you're looking at a situation where somebody who has, to the points that you gentlemen are making, everything from being head of the detectives to living in Queensbridge, depending on how long that was and whatever that was in, all of these things factor into how she's going to hopefully then use those prisms to now navigate our wonderful city, who we have all seen go through all kinds of varying different things. You gentlemen are, depending on when you guys were all in the police force, remember who might have been commissioner and or who might have been mayor, and some of the policing and policies that were handed down to you guys to, utilize to run the city. And I'm sure each and every one of you can tell stories of stuff that you wanted to tell either your commanding officer and or run up the chain to tell them, kill yourself or suck a dick, because this is bullshit.
True.
Do you understand what I'm saying? But
that was a common thought process back in the NYPD.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
What I wanted to say is that, you said something so eloquent and you articulated it very well. So we go in the green room, we'd be like, yo, I'm the man in my house, until we're like, oh, hi Malika, I can see you right there behind me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want that smoke. Let me just read something Jay Burnett said. He said, love the fact that he chose a woman, period. It breaks so many ceilings, and her being black is awesome. I love that they had a plan to change the mindset of law enforcement on how they deal with the community. Police have the adverse attitude with the public, especially those of color, and they want to bring an empathetic and systematic mindset to public safety. Let me ask you all the question, and not to please, Amir, if I cut you off, I apologize, but if you want to finish something, but I want to ask you all, before we go into another topic, what do you think the culture will be, the fact that she is a female, she's an outsider, and the fact, because we all know they didn't want Juanita Holmes. Kevin, Chuck, and myself, we all knew they didn't want Juanita Holmes. She just came with so much bad credentials. Not that she wasn't credentially justified, but just her way of management was totally off guard. With that being said, I'll go with you, Chuck, and then I'll go to you, Kev, and then I'll come to you, Amir, again. What do you think the culture will be in how they receive her, starting with you, Chuck?
Well, I think, honestly speaking, that if you're talking about in terms of the department as a whole, or you're talking about those on the executive level?
Well, the executive level is going to kiss her ass.
Because we're talking about two different entities. Yeah. So on the executive level, they ain't going to have no goddamn choice. It is what it is. They ain't got no choice. It is what it is. Right? So, and the second side of it, in terms of what it will do instrumentally for the department, it all depends. I mean, I think for the most part, I think every police officer, every union feels that because there was such a deep disconnect from the community and the police department, where they were talking about defunding, right? There was about defunding. There was, unfortunately, we weren't on the receiving end of a lot of love for quite some time after George Floyd and a lot of other issues that were coming out of those demonstrations. So I'm hoping, if anything, I'm assuming that all the police officers are probably like on a holding pattern. Like they're just waiting to see what's going to happen. And they're just hoping that there will be some semblance of normalcy that might return to the police department, especially plainclothes units. Maybe there might be more opportunity. And they're just hoping that whatever this issue that we have in terms of the city and the community, that if they can wedge the gap, maybe they can start to receive some love again. Because right now, unfortunately, there ain't no love for police departments. There ain't no love for the police department at all. And the only people that are getting any love in regards to the police department, in terms of police department, is, well, the unions, right? The unions are backing their own cops, but they're not getting any love from the community. So I'm hoping that with her stepping in, I'm hoping that her being there, being a woman of color, being from not too far from New York City, all right, being from New York City, I'm hoping that she'll be able to like boost some of the morale, especially with some of the officers, and actually get the community to come on board and sit at the same table and try to bridge that gap. And if you ever notice, when the police department gets a support from the city and the city is loving them, cops will go far and beyond the call of duty. But based on the fact with all these different legislative changes, especially defunding the police or the bail reform, officers are very apprehensive to be proactive, right? They're reactionary. They get there after the fact. But before, because of the fact we thought we had the support of the city, you hear a man with a gun, everyone's flying to get this man with a gun. Now, because of the fact of the parameters associated, well, if I get there too soon, am I going to have to engage this gentleman? Am I going to shoot? Maybe I shouldn't have shot, whatever. Now they're being reactionary as opposed to being proactive. So I'm hoping that with her coming on board, officers start to feel a little more endearing of themselves. They start to feel proud of what they do, and they start to support the communities that they serve. And we can get some semblance of this crime, because once again, the issue with crime, which is the issue that I tell people all the time, not anything against you, Kevin, but the crime in terms of that affects my mother, right? That affects my dad, who live in the 5 boroughs. I'm worried about when they walk out of her apartment to go to the corner store. I mean, people are getting shot 2:00 in the afternoon. People are being robbed 1:00 in the afternoon. It's not happening under the cloak of night anymore, right? People are brazen and they've been emboldened because we as the police department, based on the bail reform and so on and so forth, we're not taking the initiative to do what's necessary to protect the communities that we serve. And I'm just hoping that with her coming in and giving the police officers a little jolt and give them a little attaboy and give them a smack on the back when they do the right thing, I'm hoping that we can get back to what police work is supposed to be about. And
Chuck, let me interject on what you're saying. I totally agree with you. And then, we'll bring Kevin in, or we'll let you close out if you want to. But
no, I'm done, brother.
But I totally agree, because the bottom line is, right now, we know as law enforcement people, there are certain parties that all they want to feel is like, oh, okay, I just want to do my job and not lose my job. I want to be able to do what I can do and not. But the understand is they don't have that persona and that personality to do the job. Because the bottom line is, it's a test, and we realize that taking a test does not show if you're able to be a police officer. We know that taking this test, we've seen how they've tried to get rid of people of color, and I'm not saying they have tried to get rid of some white people, but we know the majority of their psychological has been to wean out people of color for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. It's the same thing with FD. They all of a sudden they couldn't do it. We seen the clown we know the clowns of people have taken the FD exam. How the hell did you pass it? But a person that got a 6-pack and can run like a gazelle, and he's a person of color, he can't pass the physical. Get the F out of here. So I mean, we've seen this, and that led me to ask you that question in the beginning of our conversation, Kevin, because the bottom line is we've seen this racism countless times. And how do we change that? You know what I'm saying? You and I, we can go back and forth, and you can come on here and be part of this dais and panel and have a feeling of trying to make the world a better place. But all it takes is one time, like you said earlier in this conversation, you say one thing that goes against the grain and you get darts thrown at you, the bullseye, because the shit it'll sound racist and it'll sound crazy. And the bottom line is, it could be who you feel, because you have a right to be white. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really do. Like, you really do have a right to be white. But you know, it's so funny. Don't be mad at people of color to tell you that you white and you sound crazy, because the bottom line is, we are
as long as I can say you're black and you sound crazy,
and it's okay. But
they're
the bottom
all good.
line is, when does it? And that's fine. But when does it sound crazy too? If does it sound crazy when I'm talking about the empowerment of my people, or does it sound crazy when you're telling me it's not uplifting yours? I know that's a lot to digest. I know. Suck that in.
I'm gonna suck that in. Let's talk that next week.
I told you. Yo, so I'm gonna slide to Amir, because the bottom line is, what I'm trying to say is that when we talk about the evolution and the uplifting of people of color, it comes to a price of white people. And not Kevin, understand what I'm not trying to say. Kevin, let me just say this. I applaud you for being a part of this dais, right? Every week you come and sit down and your balls grow, because you have no problem saying whether you agree or disagree, right? That is a man. Whether people will like it or dislike it, people. Let me tell you something. I get the sidebars, what people feel about you and what they don't think about you. I get it, and it's okay, because the bottom line is, I want a person that doesn't have a problem coming out and saying, especially a white person, to come out and say how they feel, whether people agree or disagree. It's all right to me, because I know what I feel about you. You know what you feel about the bottom line. The bottom line is, you want a world that's just peace. I ain't gonna say you want Benetton, but the bottom line is, they want blue. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, you don't want racism. You don't want racism. You don't want racism. See, I don't
want any hate,
because I've worked with you. See, and that's why I said I go back to the point where that time when Chuck and you and I had that extensive conversation about driving down a block and we see people shooting craps. You're looking for the collar. I'm looking for the solution. What happened? Chuck and I are looking for the solution. Oh, you shot craps and you ass bet, and now money punch you in your mouth. I'm not mad at him for punching you in your mouth. Right. I want to punch you in your mouth, because the bottom line is, I got to sit out here and entertain you with your punk ass bet. See, you're looking for the collar, because the bottom line is, like I said. But see, now take me to Astoria, take me to Kew Gardens, and now it may be another thing dealing with hockey, or another thing dealing with.
But who's to say I'm looking for the collar there, Bill? I mean, we don't.
No, the reason why I said,
you know what I'm saying, like, there are plenty of times where, look, if two dudes had a fight and they don't want, it's, settled amongst them. It's settled amongst men. I don't care. If one guy says to me, I want to press charges, it's a different ball game. Even if he did ass bet, right? The guy got his head handed to him.
See, that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
but sometimes we don't have a choice, depending upon how the beating was. If the guy wants to press charges, do I want to? You can't. We can't walk away. If there's a guy who's got real injuries and he's saying, I want to press charges, we can't say, well, we
can say whatever we want to, Kevin.
No, actually, you're risking your job at that point. That's a mandatory arrest, my friend.
No, see, that's what I'm saying. That's when you're letting the job supersede your
cultural differences.
But there's cultural differences of, the guy's got his tooth knocked out and he wants to press charges. You don't have a choice.
Kevin.
Okay. I'm going to argue with you on that. It's whether it's whatever culture we're talking about, whatever the fight was over. I'm with you on two guys want to go fight. Knock yourselves out. Nobody pulled out a weapon. You beat each other up. One had a legit reason to beat the other one up. I've never had a problem with that.
Amir, I'm gonna let you come in, but Kevin, let me just say this. Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong. There, you will never find a corner in the hood that has where two people have gambled, and somebody ass bet, and then they got their ass beat, and police rolled by. The only time I really will put my life on the line or my career on the line and say this, the only time when somebody will say arrest that other person is when he's afraid that he's gonna die.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's all, Bill. That's all I'm saying.
Hold on, Kev. True. I'm gonna let you rebuttal, unless he's gonna say that he's gonna kill me because I can't get out of here right now because I asked bet, and right now I can't make that bet right. So please arrest him, get me out of here because he's gonna kill me. Otherwise than that, it's never in the.
Then what do you do with that scenario, Bill?
I'm gonna take his ass out of there. I'm not gonna. I may not arrest that other dude though, because you know what's up, Kevin? I have a reason of discretion. Let me tell you something, Kevin. You know this. I know this, and I'll expose NYPD like this. We've seen people get away with less, with more DWIs. We've seen us cover each other's asses. People been shit-faced, as they call it. Take them back to the precinct and let them sleep it off. Damn, they're drunk driving, all kind of other shit, domestic, all kind of stuff. So don't give me ethics when we've done less. You understand what I'm saying? I say that to say that maybe the three of us may have not have done it, but we've known and we've seen it done, right? So the thing is, don't hold me morally accountable that I know the codes of the street. When I know that the bottom line is, if somebody's out there gambling, I didn't put him out there to gamble. And then the bottom line is, it's like you sitting out there and you betting, you know, you only $100 dude, and then all of a sudden you in $1,000 game, and then all of a sudden you're gonna play, and then all of a sudden you ain't got that money. You thought you was gonna win, and you didn't win, and now money won't whip that ass. I'm not your savior, dog.
Let's clear this up now. I'm a $10 dude. I'm not getting in either one of those games.
Well, you know what you need to stay with the old ladies at the slot machine.
Bingo.
Or
go to the senior center and play bingo.
Yeah.
Two cards that play.
No, yo, Chuck, he's not even
Tuesdays
a bingo.
and
He's a
Thursdays
Keno
bingo.
kind of dude. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll say this because I think that the question that you initially asked was with her, coming into the situation. What do I think the culture will be like, or will there be some changes? I think that that's a twofold question, and I think you guys probably have more insight on this than I do in this regard. You have Old Guard, which is the old boys network, who, for lack of a better word, are who they are. They still stand by that. They still think that maybe having a woman in charge is or is not a great idea. So they stand on those laurels. They act in accordance to that, and so forth and so on. And then you have what's the new guard, which is your newer officers who are about change, who are about, seeing things evolve. And I think, what's going to be interesting, obviously, over the next, however long she's chancellor, is watching how that process actually evolves, because we're going to have to see whether or not some of these old guys can put aside their, I'm used to being bossed around by another guy, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, versus this new younger generation who's going to go, you know what? I think progressively speaking, this is amazing that we have a situation where now we have somebody, a woman of color, in a position of authority, something that we haven't seen in, ever in the history of our department, or, for that matter, as it stems to the police forces maybe around the country.
Let me interject for a second.
Yes, sir.
There's also a changing of the guard, because a lot of times officers of today don't want to do anything because of the past administration that's leaving, de Blasio administration, and they feel like he shitted on them. They have a thing with the Black Lives Matter. We understand, not that I agree, but the three of us know that there's a certain culture. Right now, they're a reactive law enforcement. They come on the scene and they're taking a 61 and they're passing it to the squad. They're not trying to be proactive. With that being said, because their feelings are, oh, the liberals, this and that and all that, that's facts. Anybody can just try to come and dispute that. With that being said, the one thing that I employ about her being a woman, and not even just a woman, and being an outsider, she's not part of the good old boy club. Like Chuck, I think Chuck said, maybe even Kevin might even allude to that. And you said that too. She's not part of the good old boy club. So when she come in and she say something, either you do it or you getting fired or you getting moved to the left. Because the bottom line is, I ain't got to take your shit. You understand what I'm trying to say? Because trust me, who got my back? The mayor. And then listen, we all know if the mayor got the PC back, ain't shit you can say to any one of them, white, black, Spanish, whomever. Because the bottom line is, she gonna grab her crotch and be like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? It is what it is right now. Because the bottom line is, listen, she ain't trying to hear what. And we could talk about the good old boy mentality. We could talk about the new boy mentality. We could talk about the lack of mentality. The bottom line is, if you're not a police officer, hopefully she's going to hold you to the carpet to that. Because the bottom line is, I want her to hold the lazy officer to the carpet just as much as she's going to hold the officer that has a certain disdain for her color, her position, the fact that she's a woman. Because the bottom line is, we all know culturally, men, we don't even have to talk about white, black, or whomever, but most of the time, it could be white men that have a problem taking orders from a female. We all knew Hillary was never going to be the president, because white America ain't going to take no orders from no woman. It ain't going to happen. The bottom line is, with that being said, Hillary had too much, like you said, Kevin, she had too much baggage with her, though, anyway. But the bottom line is, do we know any white woman that's coming in there that don't have baggage? When you have a white man that comes into office like Trump with the baggage that he brought, it was like a movie, and he brought a whole bunch of Louis Vuitton luggage with him. And he still
coming to America. He was coming to America.
Yes. Exactly. Did you see Coming to America, Kevin?
Yeah. I didn't see.
You know what I'm saying, Kev, Chuck, Amir? Like, yo, the way he came into office with his swag.
Let's not get off topic with her in the city. She's. I know. We got a couple minutes left, because I know how this goes, Bill. We'll be here till 10 o'clock.
I'm sorry. I won't.
He's so sensitive tonight. He really is.
I don't want to touch him. Listen, let's get back to her. The bottom line is, I feel listening to her. Do you have a speech lined up, Kev?
No, actually, I strangely, I haven't found it. I stopped looking.
No, it's in your emails.
You give me the extra stay. You give me like the. It's in
no,
your
I
emails.
just want to know why you didn't find it. And, it's there. I mean, I sent you.
But I think that.
But let on her, right, on the what she's going to do in the cops, and Chuck said a lot of it was, the cops need somebody to believe in.
Yes,
and I think the timing of her is
better. The city as well. The city as well.
The timing of her may be absolutely perfect. I don't know if this would have been as successful if she was brought in on the Bloomberg. I think the timing is right for her.
Well, what's so funny? Let me just say this. I saw somebody sent me something where we had an African American man disrespecting. I don't know if you guys sent it. I don't know if you'll know if I sent it to you guys, where he was just like, yo, I'll slap the shit out of you cops, right? He was sitting there and he was just berating them, talking crazy. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact, Amir, that if Chuck, Kevin, and I was working in 1994, that dude would have came back to the precinct with a turban.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
No way in hell. Now, this is what I hope that becomes. Listen,
I'm sorry. I'm going to disagree with you on that, Bill. I ain't never brought nobody back with a turban.
He's such a peaceful man.
No, I'm dead honest with you. Would he have gotten locked up? Yeah, but like,
I saw the footage that you're speaking of, and I will say this. First off, I think to the point that all of you have been making all evening, one of the things that again I'm hopeful and mindful of is that we can bridge the gap again. The problem is there's such a distinguishing gap between what the people of the city expect of the police and what the police expect of the people. And because there is no, to your point about this particular chancellor, there's no community, inclusion. That's where all the disconnect is. Look, all these dudes running around with the super tough, bravado and whatever, because, we've seen video after video of you've even experienced some of these things in the street. Some of these guys, first and foremost, aren't that tough. Let's just be honest. And that goes for both sides. I've seen officers the same thing. Talking all this tough stuff. Take the, uniform off, whatever. You're not that tough. And I'm not saying that about every officer. What I'm saying is, unfortunately, we live in a world where people think to themselves, if I say something loud enough and with enough bravado, it will scare the other person into submission and or a state where they, feel paralyzed. I've seen far too often where that didn't work out exactly as it played out in their heads. And that's all I'm going to say about that particular situation, like I said. But I've seen it on both sides. I'm not saying that the police officers in that particular circumstance were definitively wrong, because the other side of that is this. To your point, they could have, obviously taken that differently and handled it differently.
Well, a shout out to a former Kearney, Andre. He said, Kevin, he said bedside arraignment for sure. Kevin, let me just say this. You're telling me before we go to this video and then we'll close out after we close out, after we watch this thing, you're telling me you would have let an individual, white, black, Spanish, pigeon, squirrel, tell you that he was going to slap the shit out you in 1994 and he wasn't going to get an ass whipping? Are you honestly telling me that right now?
He was getting locked up, Bill.
But how was he going to get locked up if he's already threatened you? You have to take him with force.
Yeah, take him with force, but it doesn't mean you have to beat his ass. I mean, you take him, you're going to fight him. Right? 3 of us are going to jump on him. We're going to get him in cuffs, and that's the end of the show. I don't know where, taking him to, I've not taking him for a turban, not smashing his head in, no.
Oh, you're such a
Bill, I worked with you. When did we ever do that?
Kevin, did we not work with somebody that was putting foot to ass to anybody? Huh?
To anybody? We're talking the green room.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
But now he's talking about somebody else. I'm not.
No, but the bottom line is, it was a pile on a rabbit situation. We followed the leader, and then listen, never trying to jeopardize our job. But I've
never seen you hit somebody inappropriately, and you've never seen me hit anybody inappropriately.
No, never that. But I didn't say inappropriately. But a turban doesn't have to mean inappropriate. The bottom line is, Kevin.
I'm gonna go to Chuck on that one. Chuck, does a turban mean inappropriate?
Turban means I fucked you up. That's what turban means. Simple as that.
Thank you,
across the eye, crow around the head. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I got them. I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
I can't ever say it's inappropriate.
But see, yo, Chuck, Kevin, and Amir, I'm just gonna say this for edification for you. I'm exposing certain things with NYPD, but we all know if a person ran on us back in the days, he got an ass whipping. Listen, it is what it is. You can't run from us back in the days and then go somewhere and talk about after you ran a fucking mile and then go somewhere and talk about, okay, I'm tired. Oh no, you ain't tired now. Because I'm not tired. So I don't know what the F Kevin is talking about. He just changed his name. He just changed his name from Branzetti to like Salam. You know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden he got righteous. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about over here, yo. He's crazy. Kevin over there right now, he's like he's running for office. He really is, because the bottom line is, listen, the shit that he talks in the green room, he can kiss my black ass right now. Yo,
I gotta.
Let's run the video. Let's listen to the new commissioners say what she got to say. Come on, let's see what this is. All right, let's go.
Early this morning, New York's next mayor made good on a campaign promise. The police commissioner.
Sewell's is a message to young women across the city. There's no ceiling to your ambition.
In 2020, after more than 23 years with the Nassau County Police Department, Sewell became their chief of detectives. Today, after her introduction, she and Adams visited the scene of yesterday's bodega shooting in Flatbush.
We wanted to come by here just to show our respect for the family.
And at this location, reporters asked Sewell whether she has enough experience leading the nation's largest police force of 35,000 officers after running a department of only 351 detectives.
I'm going to get to know them pretty quickly. I work in Nassau, but I'm from Queens. I'm a city girl.
And Bill Bratton was from Boston.
This is a pivotal moment for the New York City Police Department. Crime has spiked. Before the pandemic, we had 311 murders. Today, as of December 14th this year, 459. Also, there's been a nationwide loss of trust in police after protests over so much loss of life while in police custody.
As Mayor-elect Adams has said, I will have the backs of my officers, but they must have the backs of the public.
As part of a series of interviews for the job, Sewell went through a mock news conference. In it, a white officer had killed an unarmed black man. And today, Adams said Sewell aced the test by showing compassion first.
She started out her response that it was a tragedy to lose a young person. She started out with the human part of it. That made me sit up.
And Adams has promised that he'll bring back a controversial undercover unit that Mayor de Blasio disbanded because officers in that unit were accused of heavy-handed policing. Today, Chief Sewell said that it has to be done the right way, but she said, plain and simple, undercover units work.
This is New York's #1 news. Channel 7 Eyewitness.
Amir, I'll go to you first.
Okay.
Chuck, and then I'll close out with you, Kevin, on what you hear, what you feel.
Well, I thought, first and foremost, obviously, it's always great to see the leaders who are going to be trusted with taking care of our city, making their presence felt, making themselves seen, and or allowing the public to know that, to some degree, they seem to be human, be humane and they care about the city. So that's the first thing that stood out, to me about the press conference. The second thing that stood out to me is, something that I touched on, when you asked me about her situation. Like I said, there is a level of the fact that she's a woman that's going to bring some empathy and some sympathy and some things that I'm not saying that guys don't have, but we see the world differently. We react to the world differently just because as men, we're taught to hunt, we're taught to protect, we're taught different things. Women aren't necessarily taught those things. They're by, like I said, by nature of the way God created them and the way God has made them, they're nurturers. So the mere fact that, again, we have somebody who at the lead position is a nurturer. I'm not saying that we're going to have a bunch of officers running around who want to be nurturers as well. But hopefully some of what she's going to bring to the table will now permeate, throughout the force and allow our officers to have, some more empathy and sympathy as they are out here policing the communities that they're being asked to police. And then the last thing that I'll say is, to something Kevin brought up earlier, if this thing pans out the way that Eric Adams, is looking for it to pan out beyond the, presidential run and all that stuff, it'll just be nice to finally see, hopefully, a government official and/or some of the branches of that government official working effectively and efficiently, like we all hope that the system is supposed to work. So that's what I'm hoping for, and what I took from all of that, press conference and everything.
Kev?
I mean, I gave you my opinion on her earlier, but let's remember this. Bernie Kerik was...
Just say, when you're in a podcast, you just got to say it again. I'm just sorry.
I like it better when you have Tito's. I think that's the problem tonight. I mean, you needed to pass him a glass.
I'm sorry. For a quick second, gentlemen, I have to jump over here because I got to deal with something from my job. Gentlemen, always great. Thank y'all for having me on here. Salute, gentlemen.
All right.
Maybe we need to get you a glass so you can loosen up. I told you about Bubba. Let me tell you something. Yeah, exactly. You need Bubba. Don't get Bubba in the butt. Let me say. It's
a lot of butt conversation comes out with you lately. I'm a little. Look, they mentioned she only ran a small group of detectives. That's a tremendous group of detectives. It's not a small group, right? It's not a whole police department. But we had Bernie Kerik. He was a detective. He was never a police department executive, never made sergeant, nevertheless, anything further. We had Howard Safer, who was never, ever a cop and ran the police department. So, there are outsiders. You can pick an outsider. She's much less of an outsider than those two ever were. I'm interested.
Well, let me ask you a question. Since you brought those individuals, how did you feel they were? How did you feel they were as PCs?
They were fine. They were fine, but they were. Rudy ran the police department. Let's not make any mistake of that, right? Correct. Rudy ran the police department. Those guys did what they were told. I don't know if they had an original thought. Bratton created the foundation for how the police department had changed and was going to be run. And those guys' jobs was to keep that going and listen to Rudy.
How do you think Bratton and Kelly were?
I think they're both very good commissioners. I think Bratton is maybe one of the best ones ever to come out there because he learned to change and pivot. Right, running New York City in 1994 was different than when he came on the second time. It was a different city, right? And today's a different city than 4 years ago. Crime rate is different. Some people can just be, I'm community policing, and we do that. Some people are just, we're cops, we're going to grab, we're going to arrest. Bratton pivoted, and he was able to work different ways in different directions, and he changed as the years went by. So I have a lot of respect for him as a leader.
Okay. Chuck?
Like I said before, I'm really hoping that upon her coming on board, she could put some of the morale back into the police department to give the officers understanding that they have someone that's definitely in their corner. I'm hoping that Eric gives her the ability and the flexibility to actually run her shop as she sees fit. I mean, of course, she's going to have to confer with him, but I'm hoping that he gives her the flex. Whereas, let's say, I say, like, for instance, I worked for Shea, right, when he was chief of detectives, but I don't think he was ever put in a position to run the police department or to implement the things he wanted to because he had to constantly answer to de Blasio. De Blasio's mindset was, from day one, he was anti-police because until at some point, right, when we started throwing daggers at him, people started turning their backs on him. He came in with the agenda that he was anti-police and he was coming to change the dynamic of the police department in any shape, form, or fashion. And then now toward the end of his administration, he decided to go. He didn't do like increments. He just went straight out, right from the gut, just cut and severed and spoke still ill will about defunding. We're going to take money from this. And we're going to do that because there was such this large outcry. But not knowing that upon, let's say, dissolving something like units such as anti-crime, right? Which, honestly speaking, yes, maybe the way they were too heavy-handed, maybe there was a certain way they went about it, but I felt that all they needed to do was be retrained, because the issue associated with why all these guns are out here, and there's these blazing acts and a heinous activity that's going on in the city, is because that unit, which was main reason was to attack areas where it was concentrated with guns. They were out there every day putting their hands on people. Now, yeah, did they put hands on people of color more so? Absolutely. But I think it was just a matter of retraining them in regards to how to address the issue, because we wouldn't have the complications, the issues with little kids. You got not too long, I think you guys sent me an article, right? There was a kid that was going to school, right? He's walking to school and he gets shot in the neck, right, on his way to school in broad daylight. And then he goes to the individual that to ask him for assistance, not knowing that he's the one that shot him.
He's the one that
shot him. Right, So I'm hoping that with her at the helm and her being given the flexibility of being a leader, that she can kind of put some morale back into the police department, give them the tools and the resources and the support, and then also to bridge that gap between the community and the police, because I think that's the most important part. What we also have to understand is that being a police officer is a profession, right? It's a profession. It's even using the term cop is derogatory to that profession, right? It comes from the word cop, flatfoot. It all comes from someplace that's negative. We have to do what's necessary to make people understand that no more different than a doctor or a nurse, that being a police officer is a profession and it should be viewed that way. And that's what needs to change in terms of the dynamic. We first have to understand that the positions we have as police officers is something that it's a profession, and we have to act in a professional manner, right? And we have to respect and value the people that we're supposed to protect. And I think hopefully with her, she'll be able to put some spin back on that word police officer, and to show very clearly that it is a profession, and that we do have the empathy and the compassion to be able to relate to people where they are, as opposed to saying it's us against them. And that's always been the dynamic. And unfortunately, when Kelly was the police commissioner, that's when the divide started. It was us against them. And Kelly was a good police commissioner, but he wasn't a community police. He wasn't a community guy. He was not into doing things that he felt that he wanted to bridge a gap with the community. We were more of a legalistic law enforcement department under him, whereas with Bratton, as he made very clear, he was able to pivot back and forth depending on where the need was. So you always got a balance when it came to Bratton. Where Kelly, because he just was turned over, whether it be with certain issues with the public, he didn't like the media. Wherever he got turned off, he just turned off the valves and says, no, our direction is we're just going to hammer. And, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she's able to do.
Very much so. I think, let me just say this before I yield back to Kevin, and our former 2A person, Kearney said, Kev, I watched the video. Hands would have been thrown for sure. Talking about money, talking about slapping faces and stuff like that. So I don't know what Kevin worked at. No disrespect to anybody working at 2O or some shit like the 6th precinct. I all of a sudden Kevin, like, he must have just got his first communion tonight. I don't know what happened to him. He ain't divulging who he was and this shit or who he worked with. But let me just say this before we close out. We're all prior law enforcement, and we believe in law and order. I totally believe in law and order. I don't believe in, as Kevin uses the word a lot, bad policing. I don't believe in that. So that's why I speak out a lot of times. And I have no problem speaking out, because the bottom line is bad policing, it defaces everything. And it goes back to, bad policing goes back to KKK in the slavery days. When anytime one person sees bad policing right now, the first thing that they say it's hereditary. It's just been done over and over again. And how do we get rid of it? So that's why, Kevin, I brought that point up to you early in this conversation about politics and policing, because the bottom line is, How do we change the thought process? And how do we get away from that? You know, you and I, we've gone back and forth in our banter about Democrats and Republicans and things of that magnitude. And that's why I slid that police stuff in there. But the thing is, how do you change the mindset? Maybe the three of us will never be here. Maybe with this administration, I may get the opportunity to try to put my spin on it, and I might call you guys to help me if I get the opportunity. It depends on what's afforded to me or allotted to me to do that. But the bottom line is the culture, the mindset has to change. People have to understand we have to go back to a system where I respect law enforcement. I know for a fact the three of us working, dude would have not said, let me just correct myself. He could have said, I'm going to slap the shit out of you guys. He may have tried, but the bottom line is he would have been arrested for threatening a police officer, resisting arrest, a plethora of things. We all three know that. The bottom line is, now in today's society, I couldn't have been the training officer right there because I'd have been like, what? Who is this dude talking to? I would have been talking to those officers like Doberman Pinzers. I'd have been like, yo, get him, like Han and Enter the Dragon. Like, yo, you not let this dude talk to anybody like that. We didn't come from that culture. I don't respect that culture to this day. Listen, I'm all for you want to dispute. You have your right to say, oh, officer, I didn't run the red light. I can't believe you're giving me a ticket. Officer, wait a minute, this and that. You know, I'm not taking away anybody's liberties of speaking up. What I'm taking away is that when you start disrespecting, talking about you guys are not from here, I'll slap the shit out of any one of you. Give me the reason. Who are you to talk about give you the reason? Oh, you want the reason? I got you. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say that we have to get the lawlessness out of the system. How that happens, listen, it's not above my pay grade, but it's above my pay grade. But I didn't get that. I didn't get that position. So the bottom line is, Kev, you can close us out with your thoughts and process and stuff like that, Chuck, and then we'll give us some positive affirmation. I'll give some positive affirmation. But yeah, Kev, I want to give you your take on it and stuff like that, bro.
You know, we've talked a lot over time, Bill, about changes that need to be made. You got to bring back the anti-crime guys, but we have to make them the professionals that they are. So one, they have to learn how to use these, right? They got to learn how to use their hands. They got to learn how to fight. But we also got to train them in empathy. Empathy is not something that was taught in the police department or it was expected, right? You would actually, it was frowned upon. I would say more than it was looked upon. And then we got to educate them on a little bit of what, history and how people are different. We view people. Look, if the three of us, Bill, had a neighborhood that was all immigrants from the Middle East, we would need a cop from that area to help us. If we, because we're going to miss things. We're going to miss cues. You have to have somebody, you have to have cops from the community, from that same race, that same ethnic background in your department to get an understanding of people.
Let me just interject for a second, Kev. I think I understand. Let me just see if I can articulate this to the best of my ability. I totally understand what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with it to the certain standpoint that it has to be, because the bottom line is, I feel that if you treat everybody, maybe culturally, I may not understand what somebody is doing, so I may have to fall back and digest it and be like, okay, because to see a person, a Muslim pray, when they're pointing to the east, a person might be like, yo, I say get out of here. But right now, an officer, maybe the three of us may know that he's praying. So we're gonna give him his, hold on, Kev, we're gonna give his chance to pray. But an officer not knowing that he's praying may look at him like, yo, I told you to get out of here. So I understand that aspect of it, where an officer could be like, yo, no, he's praying. So, but the bottom line is me saying move to the left and move to the right, no matter what dialect that is, and no matter what ethnicity I'm talking to, as long as I say it properly, it's going to be taken that way. Now, if it's not going to be taken that way, then the bottom line is, we know I've spoken to black people, and they've looked at me and want to talk about our soul out and shit like that. So the bottom line is, it is what it is. I've not said anything. I've been there, and you've been. I'm not using you as an example, but I'm saying a person of your color has been the officer in rest, and I got to see CRB because I was just standing there. So I get what you're saying, but I don't agree with it, and so that's why I'm not trying to.
No, I got you, but so you're saying it's okay then for the Harlem 2-8 to be all white, the cops. That's okay?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, that's the same thing, Bill. That's what I'm saying. If we were working,
well, I didn't know that's what you're saying. I thought you were saying that we just had.
The three of us can respond to a job, but I'm saying within the precinct there has to be people of that culture. Because we're going to learn from each other. But Bill, you and I always didn't walk the street together. We didn't sit in the car together, but we talked. And when I was like, "Huh? Why did this happen?" I come to you like, "What's up with this, Bill? Give me a rundown," and we'd have a conversation.
Absolutely.
That's what's needed. That's what I meant. So you need that.
Then
that
I agree. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%.
Yes. And I think the anti-crime guys, I think one of the things that's something that should be implemented when they get back, they have to attend some sort of community function once a month, each one of them. Community council meeting, go to the high school. I don't care what it is. But if you're just in the mindset of every day my job is bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, you forget what's around. That little 0.5% of population of bad people, the other 99.9% of the population, you forget who you're there for. And they need to be able to talk to them.
Kevin, let me just say this, and Chuck, you can confirm or deny. And I want to read what Roscoe said in a few minutes. Kev, I was a black man that came to the 2-8 that lived in the 2 precincts over, right? My place is still in the 2 precincts over. And I've had white people telling me, oh, well, yeah, the precinct, they don't have good food. I don't give a fuck about no fucking food. You know what I'm saying? Oh, like
it does now.
No, yeah, because at my age right now, it's all about being health conscious. But what I'm trying to say is that when they talk about good food, you knew this? We had to go to the adjacent precinct, the 2-6 or the 2-4, to get food, and it was understood because the bottom line is it wasn't good food in the Harlem community. So the bottom line is, this is the mindset. It bottled me that I would come to a precinct and somebody would enlighten me about food. I'm black, so me going to Manners, getting some collard greens and some chicken fingers or some shit, whatever, or some oxtails is good food to me. To you, you want to go to Broadway and 110th Street and get some knishes and Beal. I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God!
Don't mind me, everybody. It's real talk. Listen. I've taken a lot of you. I've taken a lot of you inside the precinct. I don't know if that's good or bad sometimes, but sometimes you need to understand. I don't bring you inside the workplace to disrespect the workplace. I just try to bring you inside the workplace to give you an idea of what the workplace was like. Because the bottom line is, and let me just say this, I really enjoyed my years of working in NYPD. I really did. I've met some beautiful people. 2 people right here, even though Kevin, he's a hot mess. You know what I'm saying?
Wait till I get you in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. See what he's trying to do to me? First thing, a black person ain't going. He ain't going mountain climbing. I've seen it. It's not happening. Man. Listen, I say all that to say, but the bottom line is, I miss the camaraderie that we had as officers, the way we could joke about racial things, have racial epithets, and say what we wanted to say, and it was just left at the office. It really was. It was just left at. It wasn't. It was left at the last joke, and you go out in the field and you do what you had to do, and you come back, and if you want to start up again, you say that. I mean, we had each other's back. There was a pendulum that, it wasn't fair for a lot of people of color. We get that, but the camaraderie is what I'm talking about. That's the key component. What I'm talking about right now, everybody, is the camaraderie that we had, and that is gone. It will never be brought back in any job. There isn't any job right now that you can say what you want. The way we talk to each other, the three of us, the way you could never say it. I mean, listen, we would be losing our jobs. We lose our job automatically. There wasn't even no 180 days like a trial. Go to the trial room. You'd be like, you said what? You called him what? Oh, you're fired, yo. Like, it's not. Listen, we don't even want to hear it. So I say all that to say that's all the people that we've worked with. Respect to all of you. I love our era. Like I said, I love our era right now, my age group. I miss it. I love it. The music, the culture. Listen, the three of us right here can listen to Phil Collins, the Beatles, and New Edition and Motown, and all know the music. You know what I'm saying? That may never happen again, and we may not be here to hear that. With that being said, I think we got one more real talk with us, because I think we can squeeze one more in if you guys can do that, and then after that it's just going to be happy holidays, because I'm not going to do the one before New Year's. We need a break. I'm sure we'll still do our green room thing, but
I think we do the next one live from Chuck's house.
Oh,
with a bottle of Tito's between the three of us.
See, there you go.
Come on, that would be entertaining.
That would be entertaining.
I would listen. You know what? I think we will try to get a live. I will try anything, to do a live where the three of us are together. I think that will be epic. Oh my God.
We might be wrestling halfway through it, but
it would be like
Chuck, if you come on with a referee shirt that night,
it's all
it'll
good.
be perfect.
It's all good, man. With my
you gotta
whistle, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody, it's a Real Talk. That's Kevin. That's Chuck. I'm Bill. If you like it, subscribe to it. If you're on YouTube, share it, please. We appreciate the love and the support. I mean, the bottom line is it's because of you that we continue to come out here and try to be informative. Can you give us some hearts, some thumbs, some love? Kev, Chuck, give us some positive love before we get out of here, and we can say goodnight. Go ahead, Kev. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is everyone, have a very great holiday. All right, that's why. So right now is the holidays, and be safe, and everyone be well. And once again, treat one another like we're human beings, right? Regardless or irrespective of what your religion is or what your gender is or your color. Just remember the person that you're dealing with, you're talking to, is another human being, and treat everyone with the same amount of compassion as you would want someone to treat you, And other than that, man, peace and blessings to everyone.
Sweat.
Well, my first thing is always take a break, ladies and gentlemen. Get off the news cycle for a 24-hour period. Go out and do something.
It doesn't work. No, let's not.
Oh, it works, dude. It works. It gets me level.
Well, listen. If you get a person up in them mountains and them rocks, it's a whole
different story. Yeah, that's a total different story, man.
See, listen, everybody, that's the secret. Watch out. Kevin talk about let's come with me hiking. Run.
We're in that holiday season. There's a bit of an uptick of COVID in a lot of places. I'm seeing it in different jobs and places they're starting to shut down. But let's remember, people out there who live in our assisted living, in the elderly care places. It's worth reaching out to one or two and just say something, send a note, send a little card, send a little gift. Let them know, even if you don't even know them, just let them know we're thinking of them. In years past, I've had lots of kids, right? Then Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts would do trips this time of year to those places. That's all not being done, right? And these people are being sheltered in place. They can use a little love. So maybe we could pass a little love to that community.
Very well said. Everybody, I'm just going to say this before I get out of here. Roscoe, I saw you, man. Thank you, everybody, for having a great night. Kearney said humanity treat people like human beings and demand it in return. Respect is a two-way street. Absolutely. Roscoe said if you're not from the hood, you may not understand the hood. There's much more things. Stefania said, thanks for the awesome show, guys, and happy holidays to everyone. Definitely, like I said, we'll come back next Wednesday, the last show before the Christmas. And we hopefully it'll be a little lighter than what we usually do. We pray.
Tito's and Uber at Chuck's house.
Yeah. We pray that maybe we could just come with some positive affirmations and not so much what has happened to somebody in lieu of law enforcement or anything political or stuff like that. What I will say to everybody is, due to the holiday seasons, try to practice a little kindness, please. With that being said, crime is still right now at all-time high. Protect yourselves, watch your backs, no matter where you are. Red and blue states, crime is crime right now. Predators are preying on the weak. They really are. And then sometimes now it seems like predators are just trying to prey on anybody. Please watch your back. If wherever you're watching us from, just watch yourselves. Maybe, look at that person that's walking behind you, white, black, Spanish, whomever he is. Okay, maybe you shouldn't go into your apartment right away. I tell my fellow officers, you got a gun right now, carry it. I carry mine right now. I don't care. Martial arts, Hall of Fame martial artists. I'm still carrying my my gun. The bottom line is multiple attackers, and the older I get, just protect yourselves. Watch your backs. Love thy neighbor as you want to be treated. And I wish you all a happy holidays. If I don't see you next week, if I don't see you Monday, if I don't see you next Wednesday, because next Wednesday I think it's going to be the last one until the new year, so we could just take a break and recycle. I think I applaud these gentlemen. Thank you. I thank you guys for putting your work, especially Kev, and Chuck for coming on, for being in here. Kev, I know you want to thank me and Chuck for putting up with your shit. You know what I'm saying? I just had to say it was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke.
I can see us next week. We each come. I come in the red robe. You got the blue robe.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
We have a little theme song. We come in and sit down, have a drink.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. We can both play Rocky. We can both play Rocky. Okay.
I told you, I'm Apollo.
Oh. You know what happened to Apollo, though, right?
It's more refined.
Yeah, you know what happened to Apollo? He died, though. Living in America. I will break.
I'll watch out for the big
one. Yeah, you better go watch that shit again. You better go back and try to be Mickey. Everybody, we appreciate you. Thank you. love you. Like it, subscribe to it, share it. I hope we touched some topics that are important to you. If not, inbox either one of us. We'll discuss it. We have no problem. If you want to join in, like Amir has no problem joining in with us, you're more than welcome to come in and converse with us. We look forward to we want to engage with you to find out what your thoughts about it. Everybody have a good night. Have a wonderful weekend. Be careful. See you later. Appreciate you all. I gotta tell you guys something too before we get out of here.